Is there any mature content that is consistently seen throughout your favorite films or genres? Yeah. I watch a lot of gory horror and action movies, to the point where it's just really excessive and just for fun. I mean, why does the movie Robo Geisha exist? Probably because some director just wanted to have lots of blood, robots, and geishas in one movie. Who else can say they've made that happen? Probably no one that I know of. How does the viewing of mature content in your early life affect you in any form, and could the rating system have prevented the viewing of said content? Well, watching some of the violent movies that I watched as a child and lots of the horror movies have given me this wonderful morbid sense of humor. The rating system did not really prevent any watching of Underworld or Blade movies, you know. Yeah. How have the MPAA ratings affect your childhood viewing of films, and do you think it was just? Well, my parents didn't let me watch my first rated R film until I think I was 15. And before that, I watched some rated R films, like sometimes at my friends' houses because their parents, quite frankly, didn't care. But I would feel a little guilty if I watched too many of them or something. But there weren't a whole lot of rated R movies that I wanted to see. I wasn't like, woo, go violence, need to see it. I liked a lot of older horror movies and older action movies like James Bond, which are rated PG-13, which I don't know if necessarily appropriate. Do you have any distaste when viewing mature content in a film, such as excessive cursing, violence, or full-on nudity? You know what? Bring on the violence, bring on the naked bodies, but if a movie drops the F-bomb too much, I'm really turned off. I remember one of the first rated R movies I ever got to watch was Assault on Precinct 13, the remake. And I was going to watch it with my mom, and we were really excited because it looked like a really badass movie. And we started watching it, and it was just this, that, everything. And at that point, we were just like, what is this doing for the plot? Oh, I know, nothing. And it just totally ruined the movie. We couldn't even get through it because they just kept using it so excessively, and it just didn't make any sense. Are your values accurately depicted by the MPAA when it comes to sexual and violent content? I would say absolutely not. They rate sexuality and nudity like way stricter than they rate violence, and honestly, baby making should not be a taboo, while taking someone's life and murdering someone definitely should be. Like, that shouldn't be something that we just, you know, brush off the shoulder. Yeah, he just killed like 400 people. It's okay, he's Jason Statham. It doesn't matter. But like, if, like, let's say in the movie But I'm a Cheerleader, if we have a, how old is she, like 18-year-old girl who's trying to discover herself, trying to discover her sexuality, and she decides to masturbate while against a wall, and all we get to see is her hand going down on top of her nightgown and her face. Like, just totally focus on her face, and it was a really important part to the plot. Like, you got to see her develop. She was kind of a different character after she had that intimate moment with herself. Yet that was not going to be released into theaters because it was too sexual. Do you believe people are influenced by the violent and mature content they see in movies? No, definitely not. There's a lot of research that's been done around this theory, but more relating to video games as to whether, like, when kids are exposed or play a lot of violent video games, if it gives them any sort of aggressive or violent behavior. And a lot of the research says no. I consider myself a pretty sane person, and when I see Jason Statham snorting a line of coke, electrocuting himself, and having sex on a horse raceway, I don't think to myself that's something I want to do. It does not inspire any desire. It's just something to watch. And I would hope most people like see the same thing. That's common sense. But I mean, if it was common sense, then why is it not that common? Can the views of the MPAA adequately reflect the views of society? They can, but they don't. It seems like the MPAA is this group of people that want to push their belief system onto the rest of America, and they want America to follow what they think is right. But it's a little illogical. Back to the whole baby making should not be a taboo, while murdering is just rolls off the tongue and we don't think anything of it. It's like, whose values are those? Those seem so backwards. I mean, don't they? I don't think you can argue that having sex is not in human nature, but I definitely think you could argue that murdering another person is not in human nature. Because there's plenty of people, millions of people that get along just fine not doing it. Well, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a million people who get along just fine without sex. Either with themselves or with other people. Doesn't matter if it's sex. How does the MPAA rating system affect independent filmmakers such as yourself? The MPAA likes to tell independent filmmakers to fuck themselves. Basically. Because independent filmmakers like to push the buttons of society, and they want to get information out there that makes people feel good about themselves. You know, like, again, But I'm a Cheerleader. That film is about a lesbian realizing she's a lesbian and being comfortable with that, and not bending to society telling her that she can't be that. It's like, you know, one of those self-realization films, and that's something that teenagers need a lot of, because that's that time where you're trying to find yourself, and these days it's a lot harder for teenagers because we're just constantly stimulated by video games, movies, TV, the internet. There's not a lot of time for us to just be ourselves and really think through things, and I think films are a great way to help a lot of teens find their way. MPAA doesn't like that. They don't like the LGBT community. They definitely don't like seeing women enjoy sex in films. It's like, oh my gosh, how many times do you watch a sex film where you get to see the guy finish? Just about every time. And when do you get to see the female finish? Not very often. It's like teaching girls that yes, sex is this thing that adults do, but you're not there to really enjoy it. Like, it's not, sex is not about you. Sex is about the guy getting off, and then you're just supposed to, like, be pretty and stuff, be into it, but you don't have to finish. You're not that important. You're a second-class citizen. You don't matter that much. So yeah, the MPAA makes it really, really hard for independent filmmakers to get out what they're passionate about. Do you see any pending conflicts within organizations such as the MPAA with your films in the future? The MPAA is gonna hate me. Because I'm going to push for my films a lot, and I love stuff that pushes the buttons of society, you know, or explores the taboos of society. That's what I really love. That's what I'm really passionate about. Would you want a piece of mature content censored out even if it is crucial to the narrative? Hell no! What's the point of telling a story if you're not going to tell all of it? So I went to the store one day and I bought this potato and then I went home. Well, you're missing a pretty big part of the story. Why did you bother to tell me that story if you're just going to leave out something important? That's just stupid. If you could completely reform the rating system and replace it with a brand new system, what would you implement? Well, that's really tough. In a perfect world, I would rate nudity and sexuality a lot less strict, because I would want that to be something that society becomes comfortable with. And I would have brutal violence a lot more higher on the stricter scale. It really bugs me how much we censor not only female sexuality, but sexuality in general. And I mean, America's not the only country that does it, but a lot of countries have done a lot better job. Like in France, one of my favorite films is called The Anatomy of Hell, and it is by the French director Catherine Breillat. I think you could say it's one of the first movies to ever show a close-up of a woman's vulva, you know. You see tons of penises in movie, like even if they're just rated R. I mean, you get to see Will Ferrell's testicles and Step Brothers. Go in the room! Don't miss a spot! That's rated R and that's just lovely. Anyways, in her film, Yeah, it's one of the first shots of the vulva, and I think it's also probably one of the first shots of vaginal secretions. Like, that word doesn't sound pretty, but that's what it is. There's this really, it's not even that sexual. It really isn't, because the movie is about who's about to commit suicide in the bathroom of a club, and this gay man comes in and he rescues her basically, and they talk throughout the night, and she says, well, I will pay you to spend 4 nights with me. They explore sexuality with each other, but at the same time it's not sexual because he's not attracted to her, she's not attracted to him. But it's kind of like exploring and appreciating the human body, and there's this scene where they're about to explore and do stuff. He sticks his finger in, and there's this close-up of his fingers, and she was getting excited, and there's the proof that she was getting excited. And like something like that would never, ever, ever, ever happen on the silver screen in America if the MPAA ratings stay the same. And yet there's so many cum jokes for guys. Like, there's so many movies where like there's just a wave of semen or something, you know, and that's totally acceptable. But we just can't see that from women. So, my perfect rating system would encourage films to be tasteful about the curse words that they use, and it would definitely discourage using too much gratuitous violence in like a real setting. Like, I think fantasy violence is a little different. If there's no blood and they're not humans, you know, I mean, it's still teaching to kill, but it just doesn't seem as brutal as a war movie where you just see so much death. But even then, I don't think there should be rated R where you have to be 18 and older. I think by 16 you've seen about everything. I mean, there is to see whether your parents approve of it or not. But I definitely do think there's some violence that kids under the age of like 16 or 15 really should not be exposed to. But that's just me. And then I would be doing almost the same thing that the MPAA does by pushing my values on society. So it's really hard to decide. So maybe they should just have advising warnings for parents, but not put you have to be 16 or you have to be 18 to see this. I mean, maybe parents need to step up and, you know, actually take charge, and if they don't like what their child is going to the movies to see, then they need to be a part of the child's life and not leave it up to the MPAA, because I don't think they're doing a very good job.